Usually, buying clothes is just this completely invisible transaction, you know?
Yeah.
Like you walk into a store, you pull your size off a rack, you swipe a card, and you just walk out.
Right, it's entirely functional.
Exactly, it's functional. But the moment you step into the world of wedding dresses, that invisible transaction just, it
It's
vanishes.
a completely different
It
universe.
really is. You're suddenly thrust onto a literal stage. I mean, you're dealing with pedestals, multiple mirrors, audiences of weeping relatives, and a price tag that could rival a decent used car.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It is high-stakes retail theater.
It absolutely is. And, from the outside, it might just look like an expensive shopping trip.
Right.
But when you actually look at the mechanics of this industry, it is an incredibly intricate puzzle.
Oh, for sure.
You have this intense collision of rigid, unforgiving timelines, massive budgets, and just heavy emotional management.
Because for the person on that pedestal, this isn't just a garment, right?
Exactly. It's heavily tied to their identity. And it's likely the most significant and definitely the most photographed piece of clothing they will ever wear.
So today, we're decoding exactly how that theater works. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Whether you're currently planning a wedding or maybe you're on standby to help a friend navigate this whole maze, or if you just find the mechanics of a really high-stakes purchase fascinating, this deep dive is going to be your ultimate survival guide.
It really is a fascinating topic.
We are diving deep into the playbooks, the blogs, and the data of Darianna Bridal and Tuxedo.
Which is a wildly successful family-owned bridal shop.
Right, based in Warrenton, Pennsylvania, just right in the Philadelphia suburbs.
And what makes Darianna such a rich source for us to analyze today is how transparent they are about the psychology of their process.
They really lay it all out.
They do. They've mapped out exactly where the friction points are in this industry, from the emotional hurdles to the cold, hard supply chain realities.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this, because looking at how Darianna starts the customer journey, they deliberately lean into the fantasy first.
Yeah, they don't start with the budget.
No, not at all. They have this wedding dress quiz on their site, and it is pure fun.
It's a great hook.
It really is. It asks you to envision your dream venue. Like, are you picturing a grand ballroom or a rustic barn?
And it asks which era of fashion inspires you. Right?
Yeah, like 1920s Art Deco or 1990s chic. It even asks which celebrity wedding dress you would totally steal if you could, giving options from Kate Middleton to Ariana Grande.
And from a retail psychology standpoint, starting with that quiz is just highly strategic.
How so?
Well, before any of the harsh logistics of budgets or sizing are introduced, they are validating the dream.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, they're giving the bride permission to just play in a sandbox of pure fantasy.
Hmm.
Because if you don't anchor the process in that initial emotional vision, the stress of the actual purchase will just overwhelm the customer.
That makes total sense. I mean, you have to build that excitement.
Yeah.
But that fantasy phase is pretty brief, isn't it?
Oh, very brief.
Because the very first major logistical hurdle you hit right after that quiz is, booking the appointment.
Yes.
And more specifically, figuring out who to actually bring with you into the store.
The entourage.
Yes, the infamous entourage. This is where the emotional management of bridal retail begins in earnest.
I can only imagine.
Darianna has a very strict policy on this. They allow the bride plus 4 guests as the absolute norm.
Just 4.
Just 4. And they aren't doing that just because of, limited seating or fire codes.
Right.
There is a deliberate strategy here based on how humans process feedback. Basically, fewer voices mean less confusion.
I've always wondered about this, actually. Because you see those reality shows where a bride brings 9 people?
Oh, it's a disaster waiting to happen.
Right. Bringing that many competing aesthetics into a fitting room feels a lot like trying to train a predictive algorithm with terrible data.
That is a perfect analogy. Like, if you feed a music algorithm heavy metal, classical music, and jazz all at the exact same time, it doesn't give you a perfect playlist.
No, it just gives you total noise.
Exactly. Bringing 5 different strong personalities to pick out one dress does the exact same thing to a bride's decision-making process.
You are essentially trying to crowdsource a highly personal identity decision.
Which never works out.
Never. And the team at Darianna knows that when a bride is bombarded by all that noise on her first visit, her brain just shuts down.
She gets overwhelmed.
Completely.
Yeah.
She leaves exhausted, overwhelmed, and usually empty-handed.
But wait, they don't just ban large groups entirely, right?
No, they don't. They've developed this brilliant 2-step strategy to navigate this.
Wait, how does that work in practice? because if you tell a bride she can only bring one or two people to the main event, doesn't the rest of the family, like the future mother-in-law or the extended bridal party, don't they feel completely alienated?
Well, that is exactly the friction they are solving for. So in step one, they encourage the bride to come in for her initial heavy lifting appointment with just one or two highly trusted people.
The people who will actually uplift her.
Yes, the ones who help her tune out the noise.
Mm,
They do the real work. They try on dozens of dresses, they narrow it down, and they find the dress.
the one.
Exactly.
Mm.
Then they book a second, quote-unquote, abbreviated appointment.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. This is when they invite the huge entourage. The bride tries on just 3 dresses total.
Wow, just 3.
Just 3. And the final dress she walks out in, it's the predetermined yes dress from that first private visit.
So it is entirely a managed reveal.
Completely manufactured magic.
That's genius. The entourage still gets their champagne moment, you know? They get to sit on the velvet couches, gasp, cry, and feel like they were part of it all.
But the actual decision-making process was protected behind closed doors.
That is so smart.
It really is. And think about how you could apply this strategy of managed reveals to high-stress decisions in your own life.
Oh, totally.
Like, if you are pitching a major corporate project or buying a house with a partner, you do not bring the entire committee into the messy brainstorming phase.
No, that would be a nightmare.
You figure out the core direction with a small, trusted team first. Then, you orchestrate the reveal for the larger group once the foundation is totally secure.
It is essentially a masterclass in stakeholder management, just applied to a dress.
The stakeholder management through tool and lace, exactly.
That is fascinating. So, okay, you've managed the voices in the room, you've protected your piece. Now you actually have to face the physical reality of the garments themselves.
Which is a whole other challenge.
Right. And this leads us to what Darianna identifies as the single biggest source of bridal anxiety.
The fitting room.
Yes, the fitting room.
The fitting room is where the Pinterest fantasy violently collides with the physical limitations of retail inventory.
Violently collides. That's a strong way to put it.
But it's true. The absolute harsh truth that catches almost everyone off guard is this. The sample dresses you try on will almost never be a perfect fit.
See, I actually have to push back on this a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, because looking at Darianna's own inventory data, they have over 400 beautiful dresses in the store.
They do.
With that kind of massive volume, it feels like a boutique could just carry a wider range of standard sizes for every style. I mean, are you saying it is strictly a square footage issue?
Yeah.
Because why put brides through the anxiety of trying on clothes that objectively just do not fit their bodies?
I know, it's a completely logical frustration. But the math of bridal retail makes it virtually impossible.
How so?
Well, these aren't t-shirts. They are incredibly expensive, hand-detailed, structurally bulky garments.
Right?
To stock 400 unique styles in every single size, from a 4 to a 32 would require a warehouse facility, not a boutique.
Oh, okay.
Plus, you'd be tying up millions of dollars in inventory that just sits on a hanger getting damaged. The economic reality is that a store can only afford to buy 1, maybe 2 sample sizes per style from the designer.
Okay, the economics makes sense, but the emotional toll that takes on the consumer is incredibly rough.
It is devastating for a lot of people. And Darianna recognized a massive flaw in how average boutiques operate within this constraint.
What's the flaw?
Well, many standard bridal shops only carry their samples in a bridal size 8 to 12.
Okay.
But bridal sizing is archaic. It is based on old European couture measurements that just never adapted to modern vanity sizing.
Wait, really? So what does a bridal 8 to 12 actually mean?
It translates to a standard street size 4 to 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you are a woman wearing a street size 12 and you walk into an average boutique, absolutely nothing in that store is going to zip up.
Nothing.
Nothing. It fundamentally ruins the experience.
Which completely explains why the fitting room is the #1 source of anxiety. I mean, you are essentially paying to feel bad about yourself.
Exactly. But Darianna actively counters this reality.
Right, because they are specifically highlighted as being size inclusive.
Yes. They carry samples ranging from a size 4 all the way to a 32.
That's a huge range.
And they dedicate a massive portion of their inventory, like at least 75 gowns, specifically to plus sizes from 16 to 32.
Which is a massive financial commitment on the part of the store.
Huge commitment, but it completely changes the emotional tenor of the appointment. A bride can actually see the dress on her body.
Right.
However, even with that broad inclusivity, A sample is still a sample. It is rarely a perfect fit.
Right. Someone who is a size 14 might have to try on the size 18 sample.
Exactly. And this is where the stylists have to use some very specific behind-the-scenes mechanics to bridge the gap.
I wanted to talk about this because the actual engineering that happens inside that fitting room is incredible.
It really is.
If a sample dress is way too big, the stylist doesn't just let it hang there, right? They come in with these heavy-duty bridal clips.
Yep, the clips.
And they cinch the excess fabric tight against the bride's back so she could actually see the intended silhouette from the front. But what happens if the dress is too small?
That is the trickier scenario, because you can't clip what isn't there.
Right, so what do?
Well, they don't just leave the bride standing there with a dress gaping open, feeling exposed.
That would be awful.
The stylists insert these physical privacy panels, or they use heavy-duty elastic bands to pull the dress closed across the back as much as possible.
So it physically bridges the gap.
Yes. It is essentially a physical hack to help the brain visualize the future.
Wow.
When a bride is standing on that pedestal, the stylist is asking her to look completely past the heavy metal clips and the mismatched privacy panels to see the potential of the garment.
That requires a tremendous amount of imagination.
It does. And that imagination has to be guided by the expert in the room.
Okay, so the dress is clipped, the panels are in place, you're looking in the mirror, and the tears start flowing.
A magic moment.
Exactly. You say, this is the one. But once you step off that pedestal, the real shock often isn't what you just saw in the mirror.
Not at all.
It's what you were about to see on the calendar and the calculator.
Yes. The transition from the romance of the fitting room to the cold logistics of the supply chain.
It's a hard pivot.
It is. Let's start with the calendar, because the timeline crunch in bridal retail catches almost everyone completely off guard.
Right, the 9 to 12 month crunch.
Yes. If you are ordering a brand new special order dress, you need to purchase it 9 to 12 months before your actual wedding date.
Wait, a year? That sounds absurdly early to a lot of people. Why does a dress need almost a year?
Because you have to look at the global supply chain.
Okay.
These gowns are not sitting in boxes on a shelf in a warehouse waiting to be shipped. They are made to order.
Oh, I see.
When you say yes, the designer starts cutting the fabric. They might be sourcing specific lace from one country, structural boning from another, and then coordinating the incredibly labor-intensive process of hand-sewing appliques.
That sounds intense.
Production and shipping alone take 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
And once that dress finally arrives at the shop, you still need to factor in 2 to 3 months just for alterations.
So if you're planning a wedding in, say, 5 months, you are operating in a completely different retail category.
You really are.
You're either paying incredibly steep rush fees to force the designer to expedite that production, or you are shopping the off-the-rack sample closet.
Exactly.
Which, for context, Darianna notes their made-to-order dresses start around $1,300, but they do maintain a year-round sample sale if you are operating on a strict budget or a compressed timeline.
And that timeline dictates every single decision that follows.
Yeah.
But once the calendar is settled, we move to the calculator.
Yes, the budget.
And the financial psychology here is fascinating.
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially for people shopping in the Northeast corridor where Darianna is located.
Oh, a tax issue.
Yes, there is a massive psychological trap regarding sales tax.
Right.
So in Pennsylvania, everyday clothing is tax-free. You buy a pair of jeans or a winter coat, there is no tax. But wedding gowns are classified differently.
They are.
They are hit with a standard 6% state sales tax. And if you buy that dress inside the city limits of Philadelphia, you get hit with an extra 2% city tax.
What's fascinating here is how consumers react to that information.
Oh, yeah.
Brides think they can outsmart the regional tax system. It creates a very specific, highly predictable consumer behavior.
The border run. I see this talked about all the time.
Yeah, the border run.
Brides realize a 6 to 8% tax on a $2,000 dress is a real chunk of money.
It's significant.
So they say, I'll just drive across the bridge into New Jersey. New Jersey has no sales tax on clothing, including wedding dresses.
Right.
I will buy the exact same designer gown there and pocket the difference. It feels like a brilliant financial hack. But looking at the data Darianna provides, this completely backfires. Why does that happen?
It is a classic retail trap. You have to look at how boutiques in those tax-free zones operate. They know exactly why you are crossing the border. Because the consumer is so hyper-focused on avoiding the word tax, the boutiques in New Jersey will often mark up the base price of the designer dress to capture that margin for themselves.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they book the savings right into the sticker
So
price.
you drive an hour, you pay a bridge toll, you spend the gas money, and you walk into a store thinking you beat the system.
And you didn't.
The dress that was $2,000 in Pennsylvania is suddenly sitting there with a base price of $2,300 in New Jersey.
Exactly.
You end up paying more than you would have in Pennsylvania, even with the tax included.
You are buying the illusion of a bargain.
That's wild.
This is why Darianna explicitly advises brides to price match the specific gown before making that trip. The final sticker price is the only metric that matters, not the tax status of the zip code.
That is such good advice. And since we are digging into the calculator, we have to talk about the absolute biggest shock to the budget.
Alterations.
Alterations. Because the price on the tag of the dress, that is quite literally just the entry fee to the dress.
It's a universal truth of the industry.
Yay?
Alterations are never, ever included in the base price of a wedding dress.
Never.
Never.
Yeah.
They're a completely separate, independent service with their own independent cost structure.
Mm.
And if you haven't budgeted for them, this is where your financial plan just blows up.
The numbers Darianna provides on this are pretty sobering.
They are.
They handle alterations in-house. You're looking at tasks like hemming multiple layers of a skirt, taking in a bodice, and engineering a bustle.
Right.
Which means adding hidden hooks or buttons so the train can be folded up for the reception. They estimate that runs a bride about $300 to $600.
Which is actually very reasonable.
Right, because if you take that exact same dress to a private, independent tailoring studio in the greater Philadelphia area, you are looking at a staggering $500 to well over $1,000 just for the sewing.
Just for the sewing.
Yeah.
And to understand why that cost is so high, you have to look at the microarchitecture of a wedding gown.
Microarchitecture.
Yeah, think about what a standard hem is on a normal dress. You fold the fabric under, you sew a straight line.
Super simple.
Right. Now look at a wedding gown. It isn't just one piece of fabric. It might have a layer of stiff crinoline, a layer of heavy satin, 3 layers of delicate tulle, and an outer layer of lace that has a specific scalloped edge.
Right, you can't just take a pair of scissors and chop off the bottom 2 inches.
Exactly. A highly skilled seamstress has to carefully detach that scalloped lace applewhite by hand, individually raise the structural layers underneath, and then hand sew that lace edge back onto the new hemline so the intricate pattern remains completely uninterrupted.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so tedious.
It is, or if they're taking in the bodice, they're literally deconstructing a structural cage of plastic or steel boning and rebuilding it to fit your exact rib cage.
So you're not paying for someone to sew a straight line.
No, you're paying for microengineering and surgical precision.
Which means you absolutely must budget for the dress, plus the alterations from day one.
Yes, or you're going to be in an incredibly stressful situation.
Wow. Seeing all these moving parts, like the emotional management of the entourage, the sizing hacks, the intricate math of taxes and alterations, it really makes you wonder how one family-owned store figured out how to orchestrate all of this so smoothly.
It is impressive.
How did they build a blueprint that stands out in such a notoriously crowded, high-stress market?
Well, if we look at the history of the store, the Darianna blueprint is genuinely remarkable. It was founded in January 2013 by Franco and Wendy Salerno.
Okay.
And the name itself is a brilliant piece of quiet family branding. It's just a combination of their 2 daughters' names, Daria and Deanna.
Oh, I love that. That's a great touch. But they have grown far past just being a quiet local shop.
Oh, absolutely.
The national exposure they have managed to capture is massive. In 2024, they were named one of the top 100 small businesses in America by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
Which is a huge deal.
And they've been featured on TLC's Say Yes, Wedding SOS. They've been highlighted by Apple.com, covered by the Wall Street Journal, and they even secured an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in July 2025.
Getting that level of national media attention for a single location, suburban bridal shop, is almost entirely unheard of.
Right. How do they do it?
Well, the data reveals exactly why they're operating at that elite level. They have amassed over 1,000 5-star Google reviews because they systematically eliminated the single biggest pain point in wedding planning.
Which is what?
Vendor fatigue.
Oh, yes. Vendor fatigue is incredibly real.
It is exhausting.
The sheer exhaustion of having to communicate the exact same vision to 5 different stores to dress 5 different groups of people.
Exactly. Darianna solved this by instituting a true one-stop business model. They act as a centralized hub for the entire wedding party's aesthetic.
So they dress the bride, obviously,
Yes.
carrying major designers like Maddie Lane and Essence of Australia, but they also dress the grooms and the groomsmen in tuxedos and suits.
Right.
And they dress the mothers. They specifically note their size-inclusive options from designers like Montage by Monchery. They even handle prom attire.
And mechanically, what this does is eliminate the communication breakdown that plagues so many weddings.
But doing it all in one place.
Exactly. By bringing all of those separate moving parts under one roof, managed by one cohesive team, the logistics become seamless.
That makes total sense.
The subtle undertones of the bridal gown perfectly match the tuxedo vests, which directly complement the fabric of the mother of the bride dress.
They took a wildly stressful, fragmented process and engineered the anxiety right out of it.
It is logistical streamlining presented to the customer as exceptional hospitality.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
Yeah, what's the takeaway?
Well, it means that whether you are walking through the doors of Darianna in Pennsylvania or booking an appointment at a boutique in your own hometown, you now hold the playbook.
You have the inside scoop.
You know that you have to aggressively manage your entourage to protect your own decision-making process. To anticipate the reality of the sizing illusion in the fitting room.
Right, you won't let the heavy clips and the privacy panels throw off your vision.
And you know that you need to pad your timeline by almost a full year if you are ordering a made-to-order gown.
And most importantly, you know exactly how to budget for the hidden costs.
Yes. No falling for the regional tax tracks.
And you understand the immense specialized labor that goes into those mandatory alterations.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one detail from Darianna's process that feels larger than just the logistics of shopping.
What's that?
Let's look back at that wedding dress quiz we talked about at the very beginning.
Oh, the one asking the bride to identify her favorite fashion era.
Yes. It asks you to choose between the 1920s Art Deco look, or the 1970s boho vibe, or the 1990s chic aesthetic.
Right.
And when you think about it, it highlights a profound reality. A wedding dress isn't just a piece of clothing. It is a living, walking time capsule.
That's beautifully said.
When someone puts on that gown, they are actively choosing to step into a highly specific historical aesthetic for one heavily documented day.
It really is less about fashion and more about choosing an era to embody.
Exactly.
So consider this. 50 years from now, when future generations are sitting down to take a digital wedding dress quiz for their own big day, how will they describe the garments we are choosing to get married in right now?
Wow.
What will the defining, inescapable aesthetic of today look like when it eventually becomes the vintage costume inspiration of tomorrow?
That is an incredible thought to end on, because it pulls us right back out of the granular math and reminds us of the magic.
It does.
You aren't just engaging in a retail transaction, you are buying a piece of personal history.
You are orchestrating a memory that will outlast the day itself.
And armed with an understanding of the logistics, the timelines, and the profound psychology we've unpacked today, you can approach that stage with the absolute confidence of a seasoned expert.
Go get that dress.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.